Okay, we're streaming.
We can't hear him.
Oh,
He has to unmute.
How about now?
How about now? Now it works.
Oh, good. Sorry, you guys. I had a what's I guess getting close to being a senior moment with my other computer. So I'm good to go. And are we live, Jason?
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot. All right. We'll go. Hello, everybody. Why don't we do this real quick? We'll call the meeting to order at 12:09. I apologize for that. And prior to jumping into approving of our consent agenda, I'd like to just go ahead and do a roll call of who we have in the meeting today.
Harry Andrews.
Chris Parks.
Jason Vandeveen.
Dave Hansen, board chair, and go ahead, Mr. Quinns.
Joe Quinn, attorney. Eric Quinn, attorney.
And we're pleased to have you on board with us today. Thank you very much for being able to attend. We've got some kind of exciting stuff to go over today, and we'll kind of jump into that. But why don't we, Harry, if you have the desire to, or any questions regarding the consent agenda, I have nothing to discuss in regards to the consent agenda. Chris, do you have anything for the go to the order on the consent agenda?
Good.
Okay, so I'm going to try and get my volume up here. There we go. So Harry, do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, and I'll second that motion. Discussion. With none, the motion carries, and we'll just go ahead and move on to business. Chris, anything for the good of the order?
Nope.
All right, let's go right down into, are we jumping right into old business then, Chris?
Yes.
All right, and so on our old business, we've been talking about just trying to figure out the values of our facility, what those offices would normally go for if they were rented out. And I believe our main reason behind that is obviously we've been working with District 21's board. Matter of fact, we had a fairly good meeting here recently with them or with their board chair. But we're just looking at kind of cleaning up some areas of the existing ILA, as we also look at going to I guess a renewed ILA, and we'll probably talk about that here in a little bit. But one of the areas was making sure that we're not gifting of public funds, that we're doing business the way we should be doing business. And so, Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about the office lease?
Yeah, we hired Troy Mulyat to give us an appraisal letter for the administrative building and building D, the modular office space. And he concluded that the office administrative building lease rate value would be $8,480. And the building D, the modular office space, would have a lease value of $2,016 per month. He also made a note that for executive office rent, if District 4 occupies one office, that would be a lease value between $400 and $600 per month.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Andrews, did you have any questions surrounding that?
No, I read his report and I have no question.
All right. And I'm sorry, did I interrupt you, Harry?
No.
All right. So again, as we look at, I think there's no secret now. Matter of fact, we're going to discuss it here in just a minute, but as we move forward into the future, it's both boards I know have the desire to move forward with an RFA. And as we do that, that's going to require us to make changes to the existing ILA, and I would say not make changes, but so nobody gets excited about it, we'll have to do away with one ILA and form a new one, a shorter version. And so our goal is we don't want anybody to be excited thinking we're going to terminate a contract or an agreement, but that's part of how you move forward. I'm gonna kind of turn to Joe or Eric maybe for a moment to kind of explain that a little bit. Is that acceptable?
Well, I can do that, and Eric can supplement whatever I say. When we reviewed the existing ILA, we saw a need to almost start over. You want to continue the relationship, but we felt that District 4, from your standpoint, that a new ILA was called for, even if you do proceed with the formation of an RFA through a planning committee and a process, because that takes a long time. It's been done in a matter of months a few times, but usually it takes a while. Usually it's not something that can be accomplished overnight. So we felt there should be some sort of a placeholder agreement, if you will. Call it a new ILA or call it whatever you want. It's essentially a bridge between now and the future, which is hopefully, if you can reach agreement, and I don't see any reason why you couldn't, on a new entity that the voters would approve called a Regional Fire Authority. And so I look upon the draft new ILA that Dave referred to as sort of a transitional document, not a permanent document, but something much better than the existing ILA, which has some inherent problems. We've advised the board of those problems, and we didn't want you necessarily to elaborate on that and start a big war with District 21, because it's not worthwhile to do that if it's only a short-term problem. So while we have picked apart the existing ILA and criticized it in many ways, it has basically worked to keep you as good neighbors. We just think it needs to be replaced. But it might only be in effect, the new one, I mean, might only be in effect for a year or so, give or take. I can't predict how long it'll take you to form an ILA, or to form an RFA, but I'm thinking that you would want that on the ballot. If both planning committees can recommend, or both agencies, planning committee members can recommend to the two governing boards that an RFA be formed, you'd be moving forward by early next year with that process. So viewing it that way, it's not that big a deal, I think, as Dave said, to try to negotiate this new ILA, because it's only a placeholder, really.
Well, and to supplement what Joe was saying too, it's important to have an ILA in place as a stopgap, because not only will you have the planning process ongoing, but you're also going to have an election. And what if the election fails? That's a contingency in the event an election to form an RFA fails in the first instance.
Very good. And I appreciate both of you, the input there. And failure isn't a word we want to use, but I know we have to face, right? We have to always look at the worst case option. And I think it's really important is the District 4 and the District 21 boards have been working together for 8 to maybe it's even closer to 10 years now, and a lot of the roadblocks or the hurdles that can come into place when you're forming an RFA is, especially if you're bringing two separate bargaining units in together, which we're not. It's so nice for us because our agreements are in place with District 21 already, and they seem to be, from everything I hear about them, they're working agreements, and so that takes a big hurdle out of the way and a lot of the work. So we do agree with you that the sooner we can go. I know kind of our goal has been August of 2021. Chief, do you want to add in a little bit, just maybe put your 2 cents in?
Excuse me. Sure. Yeah, as just to expand on what Commissioner Hanson was saying, I think that I understand that the planning for an RFA, the planning committees and all the issues, there's really as I understand it, there's four big things, right? There's labor, which is usually the biggest one, operational considerations, financial considerations, and governance. And we pretty much have, we have ops and labor licked, since we're already, 21 is providing the labor to District 4 and 21 runs the operation. We've got a little bit of work to do in financing, and then governance will be really the thing I think the commissioners are going to want from both boards are going to want to focus on, so that the people are best represented, and that, we have a harmonious and well-represented board going forward with the new RFA.
Very good. Thank you. So on that note, since we're, I want to jump that back as we started to talk about administrative lease. Some of the areas we know that District 4's finances are going to fall a little short on our contractual, on the past contractual agreements. And those were some areas we had some questions about anyway. So truly, when we put something in there, such as if in the new agreement, there was an agreement based for a lease payment from District 21 to house the Station 12, that's really, no money really physically changes hands per se, if I understand that correctly. It would offset possibly part of our shortfall, getting us to our to where we need to be on payment agreement for the contract for services. So I know I maybe made that a little confusing. So if anybody wants to step in and clean me up a little bit there, that's fine. Any questions regarding kind of what our intention is there?
Has anybody contacted 21 and given this idea to them?
I spoke with Commissioner Ansel. We had a meeting a couple weeks back now, I believe. And again, I don't know how warm and receptive it was, because we were really trying to figure out the biggest thing. And I think Commissioner Andrews, as you and I have discussed, and Chief Vanderveen, is that our intention is to alleviate this concern of the rank and file, the frontline folks, and administrative, take away this fear that, District 4 is going to run out of money, not be able to pay for our contract for services. And so the goal is how do we do that? Where can we save money, or actually, trade for services type of deal, or trade for the building lease? So I don't know exactly what their feeling is on it. We're not ready to really move on that yet, but I think that's something we would use when we start to renegotiate the ILA.
So are they willing to sit down and renegotiate?
I believe they are. They realize their intentions are the same as ours. First, I feel very comfortable that each of from what I understand, their board is in favor of moving forward with an RFA. We're going to talk about that a little bit. They've got a letter that we're going to discuss here in a bit, but they've put a letter together. Is that acceptable to discuss that yet, Jason?
Sure.
From there,
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, if it's germane to the conversation, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. So we will be officially receiving a letter from their board. I think they're going to address it tomorrow in their meeting, and we will, if we pass a motion today, which I'd like to see us pass a motion today in regards to a notice of interest in the Regional Fire Authority. So we would be sending their board a letter today. And as long as if I have a motion from Harry to do that, and was that a so moved?
So moved.
And I would go ahead and second that. Is there any discussion on that from anybody? And that was written for us by the Quins, and we appreciate that. So that would be motion to approve. Motion passes to submit to the North Whatcom, or I'm sorry, District 21 board, a notice of interest in a regional fire authority. So, and that is to move forward with it, and as well to start the process of a planning committee. On that note, I don't think I have anything else on that. However, as part of that, we would also submit I'd like Harry to pass a motion to submit a notice of regarding the current ILA, and that we'd like to move forward with starting to renegotiate a new ILA. And to do that, you have to remove one and start the process of a new one. So I would like that letter to go simultaneously to the District 21 board. And I believe you've had an opportunity to review it, Commissioner Andrews.
Yes, that's correct.
And would you want to make a motion to approve that, then to submit that letter as well?
I so move.
And I will second that. Any discussion on that? All right, with that done, those were a couple of the main things that we wanted to get done today. Administrator Parks, would you like to discuss the facility used by BFD
Well,
and the ILA?
We still have the interlocal joint purchasing agreements. They were the first item on new business.
All right, let's go ahead and deal with that. Why don't you talk to us there?
The same agreements we had last month regarding the small works roster. District 18 and 5 are joining us. And we prepared the agreements, and you guys just have to approve them and sign them today, and yeah, get that done.
Is there anything, what do we need to do, something by a motion?
Yep, just a motion.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion regarding the interlocal joint purchasing agreement, which would add Whatcom County Fire District 18 and 5 to that agreement.
Yep.
I'll second it. Okay, motion carries. Any discussion further? All right, and so that carries. What was the other one we needed to talk about there, Chris?
Well, the next item would be the review of the facility used by Bellingham Fire Department from the 2012 agreement.
Right, and I know you've spoken with the chief in regards to that, I believe, and I believe that you've spoken with Mr. Quinn.
Yes, I did.
In regards to that, and what do you want to share with us there?
Me?
To catch you off guard?
Who are you? Who would you like to get an update from?
Oh, you, Chris, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I talked to Joe about the agreement, and I think if he could also elaborate on it, he suggested not to terminate it, but to make a change or an amendment to the agreement regarding the facility used by Bellingham Fire Department. And the agreement is still valid at the moment.
We're losing the sound on Chris.
Yeah.
For that, her voice dropped. I couldn't hear all of what she said.
Yeah, Chris, you need to maybe get closer to your mic there or something.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me better?
Not really. Your volume went way down.
I don't know. I didn't adjust anything here. Better now?
A little.
Oh, okay. I go ahead and turn it all the way up while I'm speaking.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh, goodness, that was loud.
Yeah, but we liked it. We're old.
Yeah, I sent the agreement over to Joe for review. And
Yeah, we're losing you again, Chris.
I'm sorry.
We are losing you again. It needs to stay loud. Please.
Better?
Not really.
I don't know how to change it.
Can you move it back loud where you jumped and said that was loud?
Yeah, I can hear you loud, but you know, I am. I have it at that. It's really loud.
All right. Hey, Joe, why don't you go ahead? Can you talk a little bit about that, the resolution on the fire grounds use?
I just raised the volume, so if I blast you out, it's because my speakers are turned up all the way at this point.
You're good.
Sorry. Um, well, I think our advice generally is that when there's a fire ground there that's owned by one party, um, really, District 4 should be consulted and involved whenever there's use. And what happened here, I think, is that it ended up there was a lot of free use of your training facility, and I don't know that that was ever your intent in the first place.
No, it wasn't.
Some of it I know was trade for services, and it was part of a agreement. Chief, are you versed on that very well, or?
I know the history that I've heard from other people.
Yeah.
I know what I read. The big thing for me is the signature page,
Right.
which you and I have talked about before. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure that it was quite understood, or I'm not sure it was quite understood what they were signing away when they signed that agreement.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem legally that comes up with these types of shared usage of facility. We've been involved with training consortiums before in other counties, and occasionally the state auditor will say that there appears to be a violation of RCW 4309-210, which is essentially like, it's kind of like Article 8, Section 7 of the Constitution, which prohibits you from giving gifts, okay? One district, here's the context of 4309-210. That is, you can't give a gift to another district. So you really can't take taxpayer money raised in District 4 from your taxpayers and buy a training facility or build a training facility and then just let somebody in Eastern Washington come over and use it for free. It's the concept that the taxes paid in one district should be used in that district. But we don't know the full facts. Maybe there was something given in return to District 4, much like the relationship with District 21.
Right.
Letting them use it, well, that's one thing, because District 21 is your sort of lead agency in the first place in your relationship. And certainly if they're running the operation, they need to be able to use the training facility that you happen to own. But when others start sort of piggybacking on that, the state auditor might say, well, wait a minute, what does District 4 get from District 16 or the South Whatcom Fire Authority or whoever if
Sure.
they use your training facility? And that's the issue that I was trying to raise with Chris when I commented on that particular issue. I don't think it's that big a deal, but I'd hate to see it get an audit right now. And the auditor say, well, why are they giving away the use of that facility that's for their taxpayers? Why are they letting anybody use it for nothing? Well, apparently there was an ILA, but it wasn't the intent of District 4 that District 21 or anybody else let all parties, all comers, use that facility for nothing. That was never your intent. So if that's the way it's been used, then something fell a little bit awry along the way.
All right. Well, and that is, I know there were agreements made, and those were prior to me. And the one thing that we have put into our notice regarding the current ILA is from receipt of that, we're asking that there are no further commitments, financial commitments that have not already been discussed and agreed upon, that would commit us to anything as well. We do not want any agreement signed on that training ground to have anything to do with that training ground until we go into forming the RFA, and that will be written into the RFA plan. Am I correct on that, Joe?
Yeah, I think that was the thrust of something that Chris asked me about. And I said, well, just put that into your letter, into your notice, so that they know from this day forward, you'd rather not have more commitments made on your behalf without being consulted.
Right. And once we get into the RFA planning process, then we can write that all right into the plan and how it would all work together. Regardless. And as much as I don't want to say that word of, if not passing, if it didn't, we do not want to have any types of bound commitments that are solid on that training ground, because that's going to be our, one of our main tools that we have to utilize when we're moving forward. So I'm good with all of that. Do we need to do anything on that? Are we just strictly reviewing that right now? We're not going to make any decisions or motions or movements on that training ground RFA right now, or ILA right now?
It looks like to me that I reread that agreement with the Bellingham Fire Department.
Yes.
And it almost looks like it was based on the fact that they're going to give us mutual aid, and consequently they can use our training ground for free. And that can't be.
Yeah. So we, I think that's our next move, is we need to review that. We need to get the chief's input and some direction from him, as well as, again, with the Quins, our legal counsel there. And so that will be our next step moving forward. And I'm just not really prepared to make any recommendations at this time. I'd like to understand it a little better and maybe get all the players together and discuss it. Jason, does that sound acceptable to you?
Yeah, Chief Hewitt and I from BFD have talked already. He knows this is an issue. He knows it's coming up. He and I have talked about it multiple times. Chris and I have been talking about, the rental fees, and do we need to readjust those? I think that would be something that we would want to roll out at the same time.
Sure.
So go to Bellingham and say, well, because we can go to them and say we got an issue with the cost, but if we don't have what we want to change the cost to, we're going to look kind of silly. So we need to get that hammered out. And then I just wanted to just to say as well, Commissioner Hansen and actually both commissioners and Chris, hopefully I've made myself pretty clear about how I feel about this agreement since I first read it.
Sure.
I hope you understand that I fall on the side of thinking this is not right. It was not signed by any District 4 commissioner. And
No,
as chief, I would not, that is your asset. And I would not enter into any agreement with as District 21 for your asset. So
Right.
I understand having it in the ILA. I totally agree with it being memorialized, but I did just want to say that of course I would not do anything with any of your assets.
Absolutely.
Without you being 100% involved.
And you've shared that prior to this as well. And I appreciate you, again, reiterating it. On that note, I know that we're going to pretty much leave that to you and Chris are looking at the suggested increase in the rates. And then hopefully maybe for the next meeting, you guys will have something for us on that, and we'll be ready to move forward. And Chris will obviously be in touch with Joe and Eric on that as well. So if you're fine with that, Commissioner Andrews, I'm good with that.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. But, we have to realize that with Bellingham annexing most of our tax base, we have got to come up with ways to increase income.
Right.
That is a very, very beneficial thing, is that fire district training ground. And we can't just give that away to Bellingham for free.
No.
They're paying us a mitigation fee, but that's only going to go for 3 years.
Right.
And then it will disappear. So that we have to really consider.
And I don't question you at all on that, Commissioner Andrews. I agree. I have been looking at the run logs, and I realize that every time we have a fire call here within District 4, we usually receive anywhere from 1 to 4 additional engines that come from the city of Bellingham or maybe it's 1 to 3, but whatever it is, they do respond to almost every single call we have. If it's an EMS call, we see Bellingham Fire, and it's often even a staff officer with them. But on aid calls, it's always at least a medic unit or an aid unit supporting us, just as we do for them. And that is a great trade for services agreement. And so we sure want to work with them as close as we can, but Commissioner Andrews is correct. Hopefully all this is alleviated by passing an RFA, but right now we have to assume we have to look at our financial responsibilities right now. So that's why I think I do agree, if we could be ready to discuss those rates and make a motion on that by the next meeting, I think that would be a really good idea.
Okay.
All right. Chris, would you like to discuss the ground maintenance for Station 12?
Yep, I got 2 quotes from 2 landscaping companies. And I met with Jason, and we looked at the one that was the better rate. And the landscaping company started this week spraying, and on Friday they start outside to spruce up the administrative area.
Very good. So if anybody couldn't hear her clearly on that, we went out for a couple of bids on that. I think we went with JB Landscaping.
With Winwood.
No, okay, but we accepted 2 bids, I guess is what I meant to say. One was from JBE Lawn Services or Landscaping, and then Winwood's done stuff for the district before, and they did come in with the better bid, and so that's who we're going to go with. Do we need to? That was already approved, isn't it? Do we need to do anything on that?
No.
Okay, I see the chiefs and Chris both shaking their heads no. All right, on that note, I think what we are going to do, is there anything else in any of that business we needed to discuss? Okay, we also, as I promised administrative manager, Ms. Parks, we would do after her first 3 months in her position, we would do a review and evaluation, I guess we might just call it. And so on that note, we're going to go ahead and go into an executive session, Commissioner Andrews and myself, and if the Quins, if our legal counsel would like to join us in on that, maybe just for this is our first time to do this, we'd appreciate that. And then we'll probably just be into that. I don't think we need to take a long time. It's 12:42. Why don't we come out of that at about 1 o'clock? Is that acceptable to you? Do you guys have that time?
Did you say that
We go into it.
you have to announce the purpose according to the statute, the Open
Yeah.
Meetings Act? So what I think I heard you say is that you want to go into executive session starting at 12:42 or 12:45.
Yes.
For how long?
And for about 15 minutes.
And the purpose has to be stated as well. I think you said essentially it's to review the performance of a public employee under the statute, right?
That's exactly what's written right here in front of me. Thank you.
You have to do that for the minutes, and that's all you have to put in the minutes with respect to an executive session. I like citing.
So I will just read it just to make so we would like to go into executive session per RCW 42.30.110 G, appendix G, to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment or the review of a performance of a public employee. We will just be doing the performance review for district administrator.
Right, that's under 110.1G.
110.1G. Oh, okay, thank you very much. So if we can do that, Chief, can you take us out and then bring us back in at, we would enter back in at about 1 o'clock?
Yes, give me 1 second here. You know what? I'm going to step out of my
You're
office.
good.
Let me stop the live stream here.